Of course, we're going to be live while I'm stretching for tea. Forgot to get drink. All right. Hey, welcome everybody to Disparate Worlds, where this irresistible object meets that immovable force. Or wait, no, the other way around.
I
Switch
think
that, reverse it, and we'll be good. So we had some issues getting live today. We had Sechari
he's being very
has
nice.
sick people in his family, so we have to give him lots of sympathy. I will give him a lot of crap offline, but you guys give him
Right.
sympathy because he has a sick wife, and we all know that,
goodness.
happy wife, happy life, and if she's not happy, ain't nobody happy.
You know what, Mox, I'm going to rat myself out here. I'm going to tell him what happened. So,
All right.
I'm wrangling kids, right? We're trying to get everybody where they need to go so that I have the time to break away and actually do the stream. Not a problem. It's working just fine. Except that I got carried away and was busy doing that. And then like 8 minutes before stream go live time, Mox
is 22 minutes after you normally arrive.
Right, yeah. Usually we're on, everything's tested, we're sitting around with nothing to do,
Right.
Hey, who wants to go to the bathroom, that kind of thing, right? So it's like 8 minutes before, I'm like, oh my goodness. So I come rushing in here, we fire everything up, get everything, we go live. We go live with the stream. We're sitting here talking to y'all like
Live.
Hey, everybody, say hello in the chat. Why is it so quiet? and then Mox looks at he's like, hold on a moment, I don't see us. I don't see us live.
We're not live.
So I'm like, hold on a moment, surely that can't be the thing.
Yeah, he's like, we're live. I had it all set.
Yeah, so surely refresh whatever. So YouTube is different from Twitch. Twitch, you just have to go live on OBS, problem solved, right? You're live. With Twitch, you have to go live, but by default, there's also like a button that you have to push that says go live. I disabled that. I had it to, if there's a stream coming in, we go live, and it's as easy as Twitch. But apparently, somehow that is reverted. So we were not live, and we were.
Yeah.
I mean, we were good, guys. You missed so much.
Oh yeah, like a whole
Awesome.
15 seconds of gold.
It was beautiful. But it's now lost to the ether.
It is,
as one would have it. So, wow, we've got a lot of people with us. Thank you all for joining us.
We do, yeah. So, allegedly, Alex Freeberger, and Reality Lime are friends of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And the others, I don't know, but welcome to you guys. I'm ready for some Mox hot takes. Give it to me. I wonder who that is. Look at that. All right, so we got lots of takes.
Are any of your takes hot?
No,
that's the question.
There may be hot poop, but like steaming piles of hotness, but not hot in the good sense.
Yeah.
So,
oh yeah.
The funny thing about tonight's review is, like, I could have sworn like 6 months ago, I said I never want to review this guy again. I never want to have anything to do with this content creator. And haven't we done like 3 or 4 episodes since then?
It's just too juicy to resist.
He's the most prolific creator of content for Ashes of Creation, I would have to say, right?
Oh yeah, hands down. I mean, like a lot of other people put stuff out, but so I want to say that despite the kind of crass jokes which come, I don't doubt there'll be 1 or 2 that he slips in tonight. I mean, there's not much we can do about that when we review. His coverage of Ash's stuff has actually gotten very good, I think, to the point where even like recently they did some reveals on UI elements, right? And he was in there looking at the background images that were behind and noticed that it's this image that they showed here. So maybe this is something that you'll have when you're doing a dwarven quest. I mean, that kind of stuff is incredible. So his and we're about to see some of it tonight, right? So in case anybody wonders, we're talking about Narc. Just thorough coverage. But I thought I had in mind to do my own kind of coverage of the same content. And then I watched his and thought, oh, wow, why don't we just show his and then just remark and just do it live and hang out with all of you. It's been a minute. We are back. We're trying to get ourselves...
Yeah, again, life gets in the way, unfortunately, and Sechari does all of the editing, which is why the stuff looks good when we edit it. So it's not like we could record and have me edit it, because then it would look like an episode of, like, I don't know, like a bad episode of South Park.
Law and Order.
If I did it. Law and Order, yeah.
It would look like a crime
So
scene.
it would look like like a 1960s television show if I did it.
All right.
So anyway, so let's get into this. So this is his take on the recent mage overview,
Yes.
a combat overview put out by Intrepid.
Yeah, so just to preface, April's live stream was really just a showcase of the mage skills. They what they call a quote unquote kit, where it's really just a build out where they built a lightning ice mage and showed us how the skills interact with each other, how certain ones add stacks, how that if under certain conditions you can proc something that will allow that kind of stuff. So it was a build of a mage that they wanted to show us, and then obviously he did a very deep dive, which we will look at tonight.
Right, and I don't think I put the original video, video, in the description, but I will do that when we wrap up today. Get the Intrepid stream video, or at least that segment in there, so you guys, if you want to watch the whole thing, because he jumps around a little bit.
Yes,
so,
indeed. Okay, so let's
give it a start.
Switch to that scene, and I'll let you push the play button. Ready?
Sounds good. Yep.
Okay. Go ahead.
Hey, what up, boys? So we'll kind of blitz through the intro today because I really want to discuss the combat and updates to the mage archetype that we saw during our latest live stream. If you missed it, then what the f are you doing here? Go watch the 4K video up here in the top corner because it was absolutely mind-blowing.
One thing though, it cracks me up when content creators say, "Look at this video up here," and then they don't put the card up there. Well, I see it a lot.
Yeah, I think you may have, but we're watching it through something that may not show those cards, right?
No, we're watching it through YouTube. Like this is YouTube broadcasting through other software, but it's still YouTube.
Okay, all right.
And I'm so excited to discuss the feedback for a class that I'm literally never gonna touch. But before we get into that, our patrons and I would love for you to grab yourself a go boy, Yola, because Intrepid are really starting to show some promise with the tweaks that they've made to their class design, and today I have a huge amount of feedback, suggestions, and a little bit of obsessive autism to weave some interesting changes to what we saw, and I hope you enjoy what I have in store for you today. Now, with all that bollocks out of the way, let's begin, shall we? So, first of all, as I explained in the last video, the combat direction you guys are going with the game is absolutely fantastic. You've really refined the direction that everyone has been asking for, so please, 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 don't listen to these action combat Andes. This is exactly the perfect blend of action and tab targeting that you've been working towards the whole...
Second right here. What do you think, Mox, of a mage holding a great sword? Do you have any kind of a reaction to that?
Gandalf held one.
Yes. Clambering, or whatever it was called. Okay.
I mean, like a great sword. But
it was
a two-handed sword.
I mean, he wasn't a wizard that had a sword, right? Who used it during the story, but as a sword, not as a magical item, right? I don't know. I don't know what I think about it. I don't know that I would be for a game limiting the use of it. I mean, anybody should be able to pick it up and use it, right? But I would imagine like a barbarian type or a fighter type of some kind would be better at its use than a wizard, right? I mean, there should be some basic sword functionality. But this is all aside. But I saw a great sword, I thought.
I mean, so in theory, I tend to agree with you. But let's think about the other side of the coin. Would a warrior or a barbarian type pick up a wand and use it as a main weapon?
Unless you're trying to stick it in someone's nose,
Right.
Right. So, that's a little bit Harry Potter joke.
I do kind of like the whole certain archetypes are weapons are restricted by archetype. But it's not that game breaking and immersion breaking for me. I'm not a huge fan of oversized weapons to begin with. So if we have these obnoxiously large swords and axes and things like that, I'm not going to like them anyway.
And that's a bit of a reaction I have to anime, theme things where the sword is like so ridiculously huge and
3 times as tall as the person wielding it.
Yeah, to me, I know that appeals to some people, and that's fine. No judgment from me, right? But but I would just imagine that a mage type who's spent all his time developing skills and learning magic and whatever wouldn't be as adept with a greatsword, for instance, as a more muscular fighter who's more adept at that kind of style.
Right. Yeah, melee. Exactly. So great swords, no. Big axes, no. Battle axes, no. But a regular longsword, short sword, and I have no issues.
But so in this, we'll see it as it goes. Like he's able to use it fairly effectively as a short range melee mage, right? So maybe how you want to build your character. All part of the
64 classes, I guess.
Yes, very likely. Okay, ongoing.
Development cycle. I've explained it time and time again where the combat originates from, and I can promise you anyone complaining about it has never actually played the hybrid combat from Guild Wars 2. Whoa. Getting off to a ranty start, apologies for that. Let's swiftly move on to the mage because I have a lot I want to discuss today. We'll just be discussing the feedback on the abilities in this video because I think the augment potential, the never before seen technology that they showed us, and the general vibe of the game right now are all topics that are literally 50.
Let me pause here. This is a PvP-centric game, right?
I wouldn't say it's PvP-centric. It's probably PvPvE, right? Or PvX, I think that people call it. It's everything all in together, right?
Right, but PvP is like going to be more like the greater slice of the game than PvE. So why would they have such a slow-moving effect? Like, this ball lightning looks cool.
Oh, yes. I mean, so I think slow-moving effect is fine, right? I'm thinking now not in terms of MMOs, but if you... In games that are purely PvP, right? Overwatch is a good example. There are slow-moving effect skills like that, but they tend to end up being more crowd herders, where people move around to get out of their way because they know they're coming. So that becomes more of a utility than an actual DPS. Although if there's a lot of melee going on in the middle, you can send it right through the middle and it just,
Right. Yeah, I guess if there's a huge melee and you can send it through through 50 people, then that's effective. But I'm thinking more small group on small group, like that seems to be rather slow.
Right. I mean, I would throw it to keep somebody from being able to move a specific area, right? And this tactical use, I think.
Yeah, that's true.
Minutes worth of thin air discussion, so they will indeed be getting their own videos later in the month. Now, we'll start with the first ability, Blink, because it's not that interesting, is it? Animation looks okay, cooler. But overall, not really much to say, is there?
One of my favorites.
It's just a Blink, guys. Yeah. The rest of the spells, however, are super cool, and Shell is a great one to break the ice with. The effect looks awesome, and I really enjoy the slight camera motion that you have going on upon activation. I think you guys experimenting with...
I have a bit of a reservation because I'm used to a more circular ball in that, right? Having played Star Wars Old Republic, there's the sage on the one side and the the lightning sorcerer, right? On the other, right, where it's a more of a ball effect, and you put it on yourself to absorb extra damage, and then it pops when it's done, right? Mm-hmm. This one is more oval, and it just bothers me for that reason because I'm used to seeing it differently, right? But
so, I mean, you will definitely, this will get called the egg.
The egg, put egg up, right? Yeah.
Yep.
But, I mean, like, it's all right, but I think it doesn't look complete to me. I think he's going to mention this in a second, right? It's just kind of an effect around him. But, I mean, if it's a lightning-related skill, I would like to see some lightning associated with it. And you'll see when it comes off, it just disappears. I would love for it to dissipate or to go out with a flash or something, right?
Like a pop, kind of, would be cool. Yeah.
Camera movement like this is a major step towards giving your attack animations some real impact. Kind of like what we see from BDO's marketing class trailers, but in a much more practical way. The camera shake and POV adjustments are a very good start, and I'll explain a little more in the video with chain lightning, as I think you guys should experiment with it more. You're definitely...
What are your thoughts about this, about them changing your point of view slightly with these casts?
I don't really necessarily. Honestly, I didn't even notice it until he pointed it out, and then I watched as he explained it, and I kind of struggled to see it was there. Okay, I don't mind a slight camera shake or whatever to make it feel impactful to the player.
Shake, yes, but adjusting my actual view, like the angle slightly, I dislike that.
Yeah, I think I could.
Because if I have it set to a certain way, I want it to that's what the view I want. I don't want you picking the view for me as a game designer.
Right. I think, I mean, in general, I agree with that. I don't think it's drastic. I don't think it's very much of a departure from where you had it to begin with. I think the more they do that, or the wider the adjustment, the more the issue. Yeah, right? If it's ever so slight, I don't even think it would be noticed by most. So.
Right direction. As for some feedback for Shell itself, well, obviously it's unfinished, and I'm sure it's already in the works, but a particle dissipation effect wouldn't go amiss when the spell ends, and if you really want to go the extra mile, maybe try to make the particles, as they fade away, float off with the wind, or with the flow of battle reacting to weapon swings dynamically. Just that extra level of polish available to Unreal Engine sets Ashes of Creation apart from most of our currently popular MMOs. Speaking of
is he asking for bloat?
Bloat?
Yeah. Like developer bloat, like content bloat. Like he wants they have an effect. This is what they're showing, and he wants them to do more with it, develop more with it, and tweak with it, and adjust it, and obviously then increase the development time. Is this an example of him actually asking for bloat?
Not having known what's actually in the design docs, maybe. I mean, so they mentioned later on in the video where the phase they are with this is what they call phase 2, right? Phase 1 is highly experimental. They're trying different things out, seeing what sticks, seeing what they like, and they kind of come up with something. Okay. Then they move to phase 2 where they put it in front of people and ask for feedback and demo it, right? Is largely where they are right now, and so that's why they did this showcase to ask, why.
Okay. Gotcha. All right.
And this is good feedback, right? All of this feedback is, hey, that's not complete. That needs more of this, whatever. So it's. I imagine they're expecting to get feedback, and then with that feedback they get back, they're expecting to make adjustments.
They'll figure out what they can do and reasonably do within their goal for having this section of the project done. I guess, right?
So bloat, yes. I mean, there may be some delay.
It could be bloat, or it could just be. Like, they need to turn on, flip a switch and something else will happen.
Right.
Like, effect-wise. Okay.
All right.
Unreal Engine 5 and its potentials, Ball Lightning is one of the spells that I really want to focus on today because all of your spells looked amazing.
I do like the way it follows the terrain.
This one, the functionality.
It does. So one of the things that they mentioned in the live stream as well, in explaining this, was that the lightning effect, and watch it as it goes, right? The lightning effect is that it hooks onto certain things, almost like a spider, right?
Yeah.
As it moves, it hooks onto and it shocks that one spot as it moves, and you'll see the bar, and then it stops and grabs something else, right? So it moves it clings to the terrain as it goes, which is fantastic in all of their lightning, I think.
Yeah.
Just as a general effect.
And mechanics of Ball Lightning are great. However, in my opinion, Ball Lightning is one of your spells that are still suffering from the same problems that we've seen in previous showcases, where the spells and weapon swings, they just don't fit in your beautiful nanite and lumen world. As I was thinking about it, looking at the spells frame by frame because I don't have a life, I think the problem is the insanely high contrast you guys have applied to the range and brightness of the light that emanates from the center of your abilities. It's way too intense and harsh. If we look at how Lumen actually interacts with the world in an isolated showcase from some random UE5 presentation, you'll notice that the light bounces around and fills the space in a very realistic way. That's what makes Lumen and Unreal Engine 5 so impressive. It seems like your spells, they don't utilize Lumen in a realistic way at all. It's still using very binary, old lighting techniques that have been available to gaming since, well, forever. Your whites, they're far too white around the center of your spells.
All right, so let me clarify. He talks about your whites are far too light. When you're talking about art, it's highlights, right? You have highlights and your lowlights in your colors, and yes, and the whites are the highlights. Bring them down a bit, I think, is really what he's trying to say there.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I get what he's saying because having played recently a lot of Diablo 3, like the spell effects in that game are way overtuned. Like I can't tell you the number of times each day that I die because I can't see the bad stuff that's under my feet.
Right.
You know, when I'm doing stuff, and because of all the effects of the other people in my group. So I definitely am more of a give me well-defined spell effects, but don't be obnoxious with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the surface of your world makes it look extremely out of place. Someone posted an extremely well-made visual representation of how ball lightning can be improved from a visual.
Take a second here and look, right? Like, yes, somebody posted how they could do this, right? And it's ball lightning, right? But the bubble, they want the bubble to go away.
Is
and
gone. Let
it essentially just be a spider, right? Like there's the body and then the arms that go on from there. And I do think this is really good feedback.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I would be happy with that improvement on that spell.
Right. If you're in chat, hanging out, just kind of lurking right now, by all means, we'd love to hear what your thoughts are on this art change. Right? Would you recommend like a reduction in the outer bubble and maybe a tone down in the lowlights? We'd love to hear from you. Ongoing.
Point of view, showing how it currently is in a very binary ball of light kind of way to a much smaller chaotic lightning energy that kind of utilizes the same dynamic spell technology that you've applied to chain lightning. It's a really great suggestion, and I took it slightly further by applying this into what it would look like in game with that lumen light spreading much further than it currently does. I hope you continue to work on these issues with further effect representations. Loosen up this light, bring it out, and let Lumen do its work. Obviously, I have no actual experience with any of this, and I'm just one nerd whose whole life revolves around
He's asking for ray tracing, essentially, is the thing, right? Like the way light the environment from whatever source of light. It's a traveling source of light, so let it light the environment around it as it moves. Right. And right now it's just kind of limited. So it's the environment is very dark and black that they're sending it into, and it's a ball of light, but it doesn't shine on the walls, right? You don't see it like some other games, right? Like Jedi Survivor, right? If you hold your lightsaber up, it's a source of light that you can see everything around you, and it's
diffused light, so it looks natural.
All right.
Literally doesn't exist. But again, your spell effects, your melee weapon swings, they all have a very serious problem fundamentally, and I think it has something to do with the contrast and the brightness of the light that you apply to them that is old lighting techniques that our devs were taught years ago, and it's being forced into this new nanite and lumen-based world. With that said, all the rest of your spells were amazing,
just
so let's move on. Blizzard was a really, really impressive spell, guys. Great job with this one. You really...
To me, I feel like so the rest of the lay of the land and all these skills for those who are watching who didn't see the live stream this is very much an elementalist, like you would expect to see an elementalist. In my own review of this, which I posted, recently as well, I was not impressed with the spells, the smorgasbord, right? The selectable spells that you have as a mage, right? I don't think that they were that original as a thought, right? There's a blizzard, there's the straight lightning thing. You can call the lightning down from the sky, as a shock, right?
Cold.
I mean, think about what skills would you expect if you were a cold mage? Well, blizzard is one of them, right? What about shards of ice that come out, travel along the ground? Sure enough, we've got that, right? Nothing out of the ordinary, So that was one kind of criticism. I mean, there was nothing original, I thought, about those. I've seen them in 100 games. Okay, nothing original. Number two, the art style of the ice. I thought they were doing better on the electrical side than they were on the ice side. The way that this ice to me looks like something that I would expect to see in World of Warcraft. The art style of it, to me, doesn't fit in with the rest of the world around it, right? You look, every blade of grass, right, in Unreal Engine 5, you can see, and it's all, to me, it's almost photorealistic, almost, right? Is so close, and then you have a very highly animated, like all of the snowflake looking shards on the effect on the ground,
right,
which by the way also follows the ground. That was a very good thing, right? And you'll see it actually goes with the terrain as the terrain goes down. very good there. But to me, like the I would in this kind of a setting, I would almost expect the ice not to be so blue and not to be so white. Let it be transparent, right? So you see ice come down, but like more like rain. You know what I'm saying? Kind of a thing, or sleet, where it's not. Hey, here. I mean, here literally is a piece of you know.
Yeah,
I would want some kind of transparency. I think that's how I. Even if it was this, much more transparent.
I don't know, because transparent is like presents its own issues.
So again,
Like,
okay,
then
so
can you see it well enough? Like, is it, you know?
it would be. So I mean, think. So to me, you've got it's almost cartoony the way that this looks, right? In a very almost non-cartoony kind of world. To me, it's just there's too much of a juxtaposition.
Because how the electric wart looks, you know, they showed.
Right. So I would almost say.
How does the fire? Have we seen fire stuff yet?
We've seen, but not, but in Alpha 1 stuff.
Okay.
We didn't see too much. You know, none of it was showcased here, except there was the odd accidental fire spell because they had it on the bar. So maybe if we catch it, you know.
Okay.
I don't know. I think turning down the highlights would definitely be a thing that might help that along right here, right? Because all of the whites that you see in this effect would essentially, and maybe that's what I'm actually asking for. I don't know. I'd have to see what it looks like.
And again, you have to also think about this in terms of, like, this is a single mage. There's zero other effects going on around here.
Right.
And this game's designed to have, what, 500 on 500 PvP?
It's very noisy. It's going to be, I agree. It's noisy.
So,
I mean,
yeah, visually it's going to be noisy, is right. So that's a good way to describe it.
Yeah.
So, you know, I've said from almost the very beginning, like when I first started seeing stuff, when they showed us that castle thing with Steven, where he went into the castle, and I said that it was that the spell effects were overtuned, and I'm still thinking in seeing this that they are still overtuned.
Right.
I think the contrast. If they bring that down, maybe that would help. But it's if there's even a few more people here putting spell effects down, it's going to be obnoxious.
Right. I think bringing the highlights down, I think will definitely. I'd almost like them to do that, and then let us have another look at it and see if.
What would you think about them offering the ability to, like, a slider for you to how you want? How much highlights, like what kind of brightness do you want on on these? Like,
no, I mean, visual effects in these days will allow you to set the bloom and brightness. I mean, you can do that, but it's more of a global thing than a spell specific thing. Yeah, I mean, if they're customization is a thing. Everybody can make the game work. Though we already
more customization is better.
Yeah, absolutely. So okay.
Knocked out of the park. The animation, the mechanics, the actual projectiles, the small little storm effect, and the frost impact on the ground is pretty much
perfection.
I have absolutely zero feedback for this one. It's just extremely well made. However, it did spark an interesting thought for me when I was watching how the impact effect works on the floor, and people were suggesting that they would love to see a clear circle of where the damage area actually is. And I'm not a fan of this kind of effect representation. I think it's extremely immersion breaking, brain.
Yeah, so they're asking for a telegraph, right? So, like, here's the border of where this is, so that I know I can see. If I step right over it, I'm not going to be hit by this.
Yeah.
I know some people like that. I prefer not. I feel like it's more a step toward the realistic, and which is where I kind of want to play if it's not there.
Right.
So
I got you. Yeah, I tend to agree. Especially in PvP, like being, you want there to be some chance that person will get caught.
Mm-hmm.
They like, if they dodge, they might still get caught, right?
Right. I mean, if you don't know where those borders are, I mean, you could get hit by the blizzard,
Yeah.
If you make the marks too clearly defined, people you set back the mage, right? You it's a nerf to the mage. Like you've given people an ability to know, okay, if I place myself here, I can be as close as I need to without actually, so.
Yeah. What do you think about this, like, floating in the air and, like, while you're casting and moving around?
I like it. I mean, so as far as limited motion, there's limited motion. They don't keep you still. You can actually move, and the blizzard does center on you. So that's what they're trying here, right? He's able to move around, and the blizzard will follow him, but within a very limited speed. I think the hover is
cancel that.
Yeah, I think you can cancel out of it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would
maybe
be
by a roll.
I would think.
Yeah.
You hit escape, and then you can dodge or whatever, and you stop channeling and you move.
Or maybe I don't know. So don't quote us on that. Is what I'm saying, right? Like that's my suspicions that you can cancel it, but. And it would be a good question. Would have been a great question to ask. And maybe somebody did and I missed it, right? But maybe sometimes it's if I'm cast this blizzard, I'm committed for 3 seconds, and that's just the way that class plays. And you have to know going into it, you're committed when you cast that spell. And there's that weakness that's associated with its use, right? And maybe an offset, I think, to sometimes it's.
Maybe you could let us know when they have the mythical next alpha.
Right. It's something I want to follow up on, so I'll try to see if I can remember to do that after this, and we'll put it in the comments if we have it, or we'll share it on Discord or something. I don't know. Make a tweet. We'll see.
Yeah.
Dead and quote unquote game-like that feeds into that modern mentality where min-maxing is a thing everyone should be doing, and it's designed to be easily accessible for everyone, therefore everyone expects min-maxing. In my opinion, I think the learning curve of understanding where your spell effects start and end based on your actual real-life experience using it, and the dynamic nature of not always being perfectly centered, is a much more immersive, skill-based, and rewarding way to play. It separates the boys from the men, and what you showed doesn't need a clear circle to indicate where the actual damage is. We, as players, as mage mains, playing and learning it over time is part of the fun of progression. Am I just out of...
You know what else would be cool if they did?
What is it?
In thinking about this is, what if they let you choose, I want my blizzard to be oval, or I want it to be a strip, or I want it to be, a circle or a square or whatever. Like same size, same area covered, but it would give you some sort of surprise element in combat, especially in PvP. I think that would be kind of cool.
Yeah. I don't know how easy that would be. Or how easy that would be, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Again, I guess it's more development, but that would be cool.
Or what? No.
Yes, Narc, you are out of touch, but that's beside the point. Next, we have
Cone of Cold, and I want to take this opportunity to actually apologize to you guys for saying that these spells are inspired from World of Warcraft, and I'm sure they are on some minute level, but you are completely right. These are not World of Warcraft spells, they're Dungeons and Dragons ones, and I'm embarrassed for even suggesting it. I guess I had WoW brain at the time, because I think mages are complete pussies. As for Cone of Cold's feedback, well... it's good, but it just needs some polish, and I'm sure Intrepid are aware of that. But I will say, I do really enjoy the suggestion of the ice shards that fall upon the ground.
I do like the dust. Like, see that right there? Like, it's a dust. It's probably not the right thing. Like frost, the floof.
It's like frost wind, yeah.
Yeah, and that to me is the coolest part of this, the effect in the art of this. I really love that, So, the way that it ripples out and kind of kicks it up as it goes. It's very cool.
And blow away in the wind. So allow me to comment on that instead. You see, little shards of ice, they don't blow away in the wind, do they? It's frozen water. It's a great concept, however, shards of ice, they would melt instead. I feel like leaving a little damp spot on the ground underneath them would be far more immersive and make sense.
Yeah, frost. I mean, if it's snow, would blow away, right? So I don't know that I necessarily agree with him.
Yeah, but what he's saying is they're showing actual like chunks that are blowing away.
Yeah, but I mean, I do like them. It would like it melts, and it's just like a bless you.
Thank you.
Just a a little puddle. Yeah, sure. I think that's a cool idea.
Yeah.
I think the blowing away tech you've obviously spent a lot of time on would look amazing for dirt and ash that is spawned from earth and fire spells, so maybe consider the actual physical properties of the elements that are spawned from your spells going forward. I'm almost 100% confident that this is a global thing with the technology that you've designed here that applies to all spells and is further applied through your augment system, so it's important to make sure the actual effects of these elements are immersive if you're going to go that extra extra mile.
By the way, Steven, when he was demoing this, has the cooldowns turned off just because he wants to be able to spam the stuff.
Yeah.
Right. But you know, later on they turn them back on just to show how you have to move between them. And as much as I kind of like rotations and I kind of hate rotations, in the end, there is a rotation that does have to emerge. Right. With the way that you build out a kit, right, we're wanting certain outcomes and certain things apply stacks that certain other things can then proc, right? Whenever you have that kind of a relationship between spells or between skills, you're going to have a rotation. Although the cool thing is, the Ashes is designed to where you can apply it and get it set up, and someone else can spike the ball, which I think is very cool.
Oh, that is cool.
So you may be able to apply, and then move on to some other aspect or some other deal, and let someone else.
Which was it? Final Fantasy or Guild Wars that had finishers? I think it's Final Fantasy. Has finishers, and you can build up to them, and then somebody else can trigger it.
Right.
So
and and I like it. I like it. It's a unique. Well, maybe not so unique. It's a novel, right? It's a fairly new thing, but that allows group play to have another element of complexity to it that's fun. Obviously everybody can zerg stuff down as much as you want, like fight, just apply as much damage, proc your own stuff, and you don't have to work with anyone else. But if you want to coordinate with the group, okay, I'm ready to set him up, right, and then you let somebody else, okay, he's ready to go, right, and then it's someone else, put the finisher on, essentially. I think that's an added element of very cool group play. So
would blow away, ice shards would melt, lightning would linger and fade into the ground or objects around it, and I'm sure there's other elements in the works that we've yet to see, like the nature, holy light, and darkness as well. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how these applied through upcoming archetype reveals. Now, I'll skip Lightning Strike, Arcane Volley, and Frostbolt because they're all just very basic single target spells. Arcane Volley looks absolutely fantastic, maybe a little too glaring, but overall I'm fine with it. Lightning Strike just seems to need a little more polish with the actual casting animation, and the same can be said for Frostbolt, which leads us nicely into what is probably the most visually stunning ability out of all of them, and I genuinely have no feedback at all for this ability, guys. You knocked it out of the park again with Chained Lightning. The visual, the animation, the impact, and the actual tech that you've designed here where it conforms to the terrain is phenomenal. The animation work
I do like that cast, right, where she levitates a minute or a second, right, and it draws it from the ground and then shoots it forward. That is a great effect. It just, fantastic.
Yeah, it's well done.
Particular is super impressive, and similar to what I said before with the camera work on Shell, you're 100% going in the right direction, playing around with the FOV of the camera during animations to emphasize that impact. You almost make the animation look slow-mo towards the end of the cast. Keep working on this, and don't be afraid to experiment. Go crazy with it a bit. Try some unorthodox, wild-looking techniques, because that's what makes BDO's combat so impressive during their marketing trailers. It's got nothing to do with action combat. The combat mechanics themselves, that's not even part of it. It's 100% to do with the presentation. Next, I think we'll discuss Slumber, probably the most controversial spell out of them all from both a visual standpoint and mechanics one. Although talking about mechanics and balance at this stage is kind of pointless as it's a work in progress, I do want to mention the visual representation of spells like this. It's so very important to make animations of soft crowd control abilities and the actual debuffs that come with them recognizable immediately. Then we as players can react to them in real time instead of doing that thing where we're staring at the UI for 90% of MMORPG combat. Even I don't like doing that, and I am a massive advocate for tab targeting. And right now, the animation for both that Slumber spell and the debuffs, they're non-existent. So I think returning to these aspects is important if we're going to move forward with the gameplay, instead of taking steps backwards. Hybrid combat is about taking the best of both worlds and applying them, and Ashes of Creation is all about innovation and improvement, right? Finally, we have what I am assuming.
Yeah, before we go on, or at least into the next piece here, I think I agree, and it's something that I remember a lot from Diablo 2, since we're playing, I've also been playing a little bit of Diablo 3 lately, right? A curse on something or a debuff in some way had a visual effect, Star Wars: The Republic was this way as well, right? If I put a debuff on them, they were poisoned. There was a slight green plumes, right? That of whatever. You could tell a target was poisoned by looking at them, not by having to look at what was on their bar, right? And I think when you're debuffing, I think anything that applies stacks or applies something. Maybe not stacks, right? But certainly certain states that you put an enemy mob into, or if and it's just also as a visual cue that other people can pick up on if they are, hey, okay, this person's been set up with enough stacks that you can proc a certain other skill, right? If they see that, they know it's there and that it's ready. Otherwise, I mean, who is really following the bar so carefully? I mean, because there's so much noise as well, right? Like debuff, the whole stack of debuffs on a world boss, for instance.
Right. Yeah. Again, if you got 50 people fighting something, you're gonna have a lot of debuffs on it.
Right. But I mean, even something like I know in Diablo it had some kind of effect above its head, like some kind of a something going on. But even if it's not on the actual character, about the character model, it's around it, right? Some kind of an aura or something, that is a visual cue. So, agreed.
Assuming is the mage's actual class mechanic, elemental empowerment. The mechanics of it are fantastic and 100% fulfills that mage fantasy in a way that actually tells us as players the importance of weapon attacks in Ashes of Creation. I'm confident we simply don't understand the huge emphasis that actual weapon attacks have in this.
It's the very Harry Potter. You're like slinging the stuff. It's very the wand animations are great, at least for that I forget what the attack was that they were using right there, but there it is.
Game's combat, and I think it's causing a bit of disconnect for us to understand the actual direction of the game's moment-to-moment gameplay. That said, as the mage demonstrates with elemental empowerment, weapon attacks are super important to weave in between cooldowns to stack those debuffs, and this goes without saying, but we can't forget that we still have a whole layer of progression and customization when it comes to the weapon skill trees. Now, I'm sure Intrepid are very aware, but there is no actual animation or player feedback to both the UI and the player character when this ability is activated. You see, when elemental empowerment is used, the weapon you have equipped should be engulfed in whatever element is currently active. For example, the greatsword should be engulfed in lightning, frost, fire, or earth when the ability is used, and swaps dynamically.
So, just in case somebody else didn't watch it,
right. I'm sure this is on your list.
We good?
I was going to pause too.
Okay. So elemental empowerment is a skill that if I've been attacking with ice, obviously, I hit him with ice and that applies the debuff, right? There's a chilled debuff that if you get to 10 stacks then becomes, I forget what it was, right? Frozen or something, right? Frozen, there's a shatter that you can turn onto that, right? But I cast that spell and it may apply 2 stacks, but now it's on cooldown. Right, so I may throw another ice spell, and that applies a stack, and then it's on cooldown. And I can't get through all of them and apply all 10 of those stacks.
Right, before the early ones drop off.
So there's a kind of a one-size-fits-all skill, which we call the elemental empowerment, that if I click it, now I can sling more stacks of whatever I was just throwing. So if I threw an ice spell and I hit elemental empowerment, it'll now throw, fire, right? If I was in fire, if electrical, right? So you have, and it's a kind of like a multi-tool, tool in that sense. So I just want to throw that out there. Okay, so what was your observation?
I disagree with one thing he said there, and that would be that, I don't want to add more effects.
Okay.
I don't want flaming weapons and frozen weapons and sparking weapons and.
So if it's not an effect on your weapon, because I think what he was I don't know if I agree, right?
But from a PvP point of view, it's nice to know what they're casting, I guess.
Yes, and I think that's what he was saying, right? If I hit an elemental empowerment, exactly what am I throwing at them, right? Because you're moving fast between skills, I think, So, although, I mean, when you use it, you should have known, okay, I'm using it to further ice, right? Or,
Right, but your opponent, the question is, if they want to counter, ice, if they have something that, breaks the the chilled effect, they'll know to use that if you're using ice stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So like I get that, but the game does not need more particle effects.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, like, and in all honesty, I think it's probably premature anyway, because I can imagine if you are a fighter main with a mage secondary, again when we're into the 64 classes, right? Or if you're a bowman who's got a mage secondary, you may borrow skills from that mage secondary, that when I draw that arrow, that when I pull out those daggers or whatever, you can see the effect as a result of that, right? Like
right.
I've ice buffed them or something, so I imagine that will probably come, but right now at this stage it would probably be premature to try to
agreed.
So all right, I'll let you push the play button.
To do, because the spell is missing an animation altogether. But whilst we're on this note, let's briefly talk about a previous video where I explained how these core archetype mechanics shouldn't be a simple button on your UI or a buff under your nameplate. They should have their own UI element themselves, and I mocked up an interesting one for today's video. As you can see, it is an elemental focus that can conform to the customization available to our user interface,
too much,
and dynamically changes elements to show the players what element was last used.
I have to say, I'm impressed that he was able to time the pulses on this mocked up UI element to the casts. Like that's impressive.
Yeah, I mean, he's visual effects. He's Narc is very good. So
empowerment to consume. It's so very important for both the gameplay and impact of the combat that these core mechanics be placed on the UI, and Arcade, the game that I think you're mainly inspired from, really failed to deliver in this aspect. In conclusion, it goes without saying, but the Mage Showcase was fantastic, and when we see the Rogue, Bard, and Summoner, I really hope you guys...
So I think obviously what we're seeing there is too much, just entirely too much, because that's a whole piece that you have on your screen that's dedicated really to the use of one skill, right? Maybe more. It needs to be more contextual, and something shows up when you use that spell, right? But I would want to minimize it for sure. But I do like where he's going with the thought. Show me something on my UI that when I hit him elemental empowerment, it shows me what element I'm going to be throwing.
Right.
I think that's a fair piece of feedback. So
yeah. And they can tidy that up, make it smaller.
Right. Yeah, I mean, something, maybe not, again, it is large, right? And it's right around your character, and it's very dominating. I would immediately almost turn that off. Or if it was
so much, like, translucent, like, where it's not...
Yeah.
Like, where you can see through it still, potentially.
Towards that emphasis on class mechanics and how to represent them to the players in a way that is immersive and easy to understand. After all, guys, what we've seen today, is the worst state Ashes of Creation is ever going to be in. It's only going up from here. But as usual, I am just one nerd desperate for a good MMO, and considering this is a feedback video, I'd love for you guys to take some time to give your feedback in the comments below for each of the spells like I did in this video, because it's very important for Intrepid to hear your voices. As always, I want to thank my patrons. Without your support, this balding, middle-aged man wouldn't be able to live his dream of talking shit on the internet. If you made it to the end of the video, surely it's worth giving a like, and if you haven't already, why not go ahead and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one, because you're high on copium.
All right.
Thank you, Pepe. All right.
Yeah. So we would love, those of you who are in chat who have been very silent, and that's fine, nothing wrong with that. But
yeah.
Let us know what you think. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Like I said before we got started, I had in mind to do something just like that, to actually give a blow-by-blow analysis of everything. Here's what I think about that, or the art style of this, and then it occurred to me, why don't we just do that together, right?
Right.
Discuss it as we go.
Why don't we use somebody else's efforts and make content from it? So that's one thing Narc is good for. So, yeah, all in all, I have to say I was impressed by it, but I do think it needs some tweaking. And if that's what this, like, the phase that they're in is, like, saying, hey, this is what we have, like, let's do it. But I also would have liked to have seen Fire and the other ones too, because are they going to come back to us in like, are they going to make a round and, like, go through all the classes, then come back to Mage in 6 months and be like, all right, now it's time for Fire? Like, why not
or
do
in 3 months,
all
right?
of it?
Like, it's
like,
will be 2. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so I fully agree with that. Yeah. Again, you know, I think we're seeing so much on classes right now. I would love for them to take a break from classes and show us naval combat. You know, some of those other mechanics in the game with them.
Maybe there's a reason they're not showing us naval combat.
Maybe
it's all the ships sink when they put them in the water.
Who knows? So yeah,
maybe it's like Skull and Bones and never going to come out.
Right, yeah. But yeah, so but you know, another criticism I have, which is not really a big one, the thing I liked about Guild Wars 1 was that you had an elementalist, which was a distinctive class on its own compared to other kind of mages that did other kind of magics. Right. So there wasn't like a mage. I'm trying to remember now, maybe I get that wrong, right? But you have an elementalist, you have your like a the ones that necromancer, that's what I'm trying to think of, right? You have a mesmer, all kinds of different magics, but one focuses more on illusion magic, right? One focuses more on you know, necromancy, different kinds of magic, and I like that lay of the land. This mage is an elementalist, right? And that's okay, but then they have this arcane volley, right? Was one of the skills thrown in there, which is a non-elemental magic thrown in. Build a tree out for that. I would love an arcane tree. Do something outside of the you know, earth, wind, fire, and you know.
So are you saying, like, you know, make them choose like a tree to be in or 2 trees to be in?
No doubt you will have to do that. I think that you'll have to kind of concentrate, because you can. I do know it is in the plans for them. You can either go broad or you can go deep, right? But you don't have enough to fit everything, right? So
gotcha.
How you build out, and this is a very realistic build. You would see someone focus on lightning and ice as a build for a Sorc, you know. So,
gotcha. Lightning, ice, and then a smattering of utility, like the sleep spell and blink, maybe.
Right, and then I think some utilities thrown in there, right?
Yeah,
but
it's an elementalist. Where the arcane spells are going to fall in is you know, yes, you're going to have to choose the elemental trees, but you'll get these other spells to supplement it and be utilities alongside of it.
Yeah, and I would say, I mean, I don't think that the shell, that didn't look to me like lightning. Right, that looked more like an arcane spell. Right, blink is certainly more arcane. Whatever that you see, that purple effect.
No, because because blink was it was more arcane, right? Because of the purple black.
And then
cloud.
you had the purple arcane volley, right, which is just a generic kind of I'm
magic
sure it had
missile.
Its own.
It's like magic missile.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you've got the emergence of another tree there. To me, but I don't know, like I'd love to see other magics, and granted we got a lot more classes still to come, so that's fine, but just other magics, you know. I think there's blood magic.
Thankfully we're not going to get 64 of these. Thankfully we're only going to get is it 16?
Are we?
Is it 16? Is it or 8?
It's 8 by 8 is what gives you the 64. 8 by 8.
Right? So we got 7 more of these to go through.
And in all honesty, so they do themselves a disservice having a name for every combination, right? I can be a fighter mage and that gives me a spell sword, right? Or I can be a tank whatever and that gives me a whatever. And they've got a name for every one of those 64 different combinations. And that gives me
ammunition to say they have too many classes.
And but I've seen, like, again in Guild Wars 1, everything had a primary and a secondary, and that secondary you kind of put the 2 sets of skills together minus some of the, you know, whatever the primary like aspects would be, and it was the whole thing was about builds. What of those 2? What are the skills that you use to synergize with each other? And it was fantastic. It was such a great aspect of that game, right? I would love to see, you know, and I think it worked very well. You know, I would love to see something similar here. You know, I have faith that they can pull this off. So
yeah. So you tell me you want to do an episode about like classic MMOs and what are we looking for in our games.
I do.
So let's look for that in the coming couple weeks. Let's hope. It all depends on Sechari's schedule with kids getting done with school and whatnot. How the summer looks for him. So
it's just an excuse to talk about Star Wars Galaxies. That's all it really is. That I've missed.
Who wants to do that? No, I'm just kidding. So I do hope everybody had a great May the 4th, Star Wars Day. It was indeed. It was exciting.
Revenge of the Sith. Revenge of the
exactly.
Sith.
There you go. All right, so I think that's going to wrap it up for us. Check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/disparateworlds, on Twitter at disparateworlds, our website, disparateworlds.org, and our Patreon, which is patreon.com/disparateworlds. In addition to on our website, and in the description below is a link to our Discord. Please join us there if you want to talk about Ashes of Creation or my upcoming favorite game, Pantheon: Rise of the Fallen.
Yes, I don't have any of this written down and in front of me, so I'm probably going to flub it if I try, so I won't.
Drop a comment.
Yeah, there's the comments. Yeah,
don't forget to like.
Yes, all the
and
stuff.
Subscribe.
Guys, help us out.
And
bail us out.
All that stuff.
Yes,
because the algorithm hates you, and you'll only get notified if you hit that notification button.
Yes, indeed. Okay. I think that's it for us, right, Mox? We're done for the evening?
Well, yeah. You guys can all go about your evenings and have a good week, everybody.
All right. See you all later. Thank you all.